Hey, so today we are going to talk about the kids who just do not gain weight, the ones who eat a few bites and say they're full, or who live on milk, yogurt, and the same three foods every single day, or perhaps the kids that never even ask for food, that never claim that they're hungry. So, if you have a child like that, or perhaps if your pediatrician has looked at their growth chart and noticed they're stalling or falling off their curve or becoming failure to thrive, you might be wondering, what am I doing wrong? Am I missing something? So, that's what today's episode is all about. I want you to first take a breath, and it's not your fault. And it's not always even about calories. So let's dive in and talk all about this because it's a really important topic that really actually affects a lot of our kids. So here's the truth on why a lot of kids are staying small. They're not being stubborn. Their body is not sending clear hunger signal cues. There's a nerve called the vagus nerve, and it goes between your brain and your stomach. And it is constantly all day long sending those signals. But if there is something going on that might be contributing to discomfort or pain or inflammation in any way, it might be sending the signal, now's not a good time for food. I'm not hungry. I don't want anything else in here to make this worse, right? So sometimes it might be reflux or constipation. Could be sensory overload and weak chewing muscles. It could be gut inflammation or food sensitivities. And when these things happen, the body starts to adapt, right? It learns to run on low fuel and it stops sending hunger signals to the brain. So when we say just add more calories, it rarely fixes the problem. And sometimes it makes it worse because we're feeding the symptom, not the root cause. Okay, so what do we want to check? Definitely want to check a few things. Okay, if you skip these, you might be missing some puzzle pieces here. Okay, so we want to check iron levels and thyroid function for sure. We want to check for celiac, gluten, and food sensitivities for sure. Okay, we want to check for constipation and reflux, and we want to check sensory and oral motor skills. Okay, so let's dive into each of those a little bit deeper. Iron and thyroid function. Low iron can make kids feel tired and uninterested in food, and the body will start to conserve energy instead of using it to digest. We also want to check for your thyroid levels because that also can slow metabolism if those are off. And correcting them can boost appetite and energy levels within a few weeks. So to do this, you want to ask for a CBC test, which is a finger prick blood test, and ferritin levels to measure stored iron. You also want to check your TSH and free T4 levels to rule out thyroid issues. So those are blood tests that your pediatrician can do in their office. Okay, next let's go into things like celiac, gluten, and food sensitivities, because these are actually different things. Okay, celiac is not a food sensitivity, it is an autoimmune disorder. And just like the opposite of that, food sensitivity is not an autoimmune disorder, right? So they actually are going to show up differently depending on what type of test you've been given. So let's do celiac first. So when gluten is damaging your small intestine, nutrients don't get absorbed. So food goes in, but it comes back out sort of unused. Okay. So they can actually screen for celiac using a blood test, and usually they will confirm it with an endoscopy or a small biopsy of the small intestine. And once you remove gluten and the lining gets healed, often growth can rebound pretty quickly. Now, gluten intolerance or a sensitivity to gluten or other foods, right? So we're talking sensitivity to foods. That does not show up on an allergy panel because it's a delayed inflammatory reaction. You might have things like bloating, eczema, constipation, fatigue, and it could appear hours or even days or weeks later, which make it really hard to pinpoint, right? So for this, there are some functional medicine tests that can be helpful that are ordered, separately outside of Western medicine system. Unfortunately, they're not usually covered by insurance. Now, we actually currently have food sensitivity and gut microbiome testing in. Now, this is new for us, but we are starting this for all roadmap evaluations starting December 1st, 2025. So families do not have to guess or go elsewhere to find answers. It is part of our going to be standard operating procedure when we are assessing the whole child here. Because you know what actually really made me want to make this standard for everyone. We once had a child test positive for celiac with none of the classic red flags, which is exactly why using these tests to rule it out is so important. Okay, so it's really going to be hard to make progress with food or expanding variety if there is one of these, these gut or food sensitivities that have been missed. And it could waste a lot of time. So we don't want to waste time. We want to test, not guess. Now, the constipation and reflux, if the gut can be backed up or if your esophagus is burning, eating becomes more about self-protection, not so much hunger. We want to see daily, easy bowel movements, every 2 to 3 days or straining are red flags. You should actually really be going several times a day for bowel movements. And sometimes, right, that could be because of a gut imbalance. So, it's part of looking at that whole picture again and figuring out why it's becoming a problem. Number 4 was that sensory and oral motor skills. So some kids can't manage the mechanics of eating very well. They might have a weak jaw, poor tongue coordination, sensitivity to textures, and it can make meals exhausting and overwhelming. So we evaluate for chewing, swallowing, sensory comfort. You would definitely want to see a pediatric feeding therapist for this, but knowing specifically that they have training in these areas is going to be very, very key. Our evaluation for our roadmap is very, very thorough and goes line by line, muscle by muscle, for all of the skills required and needed to eat comfortably and safely. Okay, so if you're thinking there is something definitely going on with my child in one of these areas, stop guessing. Definitely get one of our roadmaps. You can start today by taking the free quiz at thepickeaterstest.com if you haven't already to learn which level your child is at and what kind of support will actually move the needle. So you'll get tailored support depending on how you answer the questions, and it'll guide you to the next steps. And sometimes that next step is a roadmap and sometimes it's not. But knowing what the next step is going to be really important. And you're welcome to get more information on our website at foodologyfeedingtherapy.com/courses about the courses that we offer. We really have 2 main courses to help parents depending on what level your child is at. Okay, so those would be really your next steps, and definitely something that would be helpful if you're noticing, oh, there's like some things she's talking about here that actually do concern me about my child. Then we definitely want to explore this and rule all of these things out so we can pinpoint exactly where the issue is, and then we can get the exact game plan of what to do next, in what order, based on your child's needs, right? So let's talk strategies next. Strategies that work with this. Okay, so when kids are not eating and we want them to gain weight, here are some things we can do. We can fix the schedule. We can focus on comfort, not control. We can boost calories without necessarily adding volume. We want to address food sensitivities very carefully. and we want to retrain the hunger cues. So let's dive into exactly how to do all of these. Number one, fixing the schedule. Constant grazing throughout the day or sipping liquids can keep hunger cues sort of at bay. Okay, so aim for 3 main meals, right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 2 snacks at least. You want every meal spaced out about 2.5 to 3 hours apart with maybe water in between. Those small gaps in time are what is going to wake up the appetite signals. So if you just hand them a bowl and they have access to that food and they come over, take a bite, walk away, come over, take a bite, walk away, and they do that for hours, they're not going to feel the same hunger as somebody who hasn't eaten in 2 to 3 hours. It's just not possible. That's just not how our bodies work. Um, I mean, I'm sure it's possible for someone. I guess I'm lying about that. But for most people, you need time in between to build up those hunger cues. Okay. Number 2, focus on comfort, not control. So stress is going to shut down digestion. If you're like, you have to eat this, take another bite, that's putting pressure on them and stress. And all it's going to do is make them want to eat less. So eat together, take a breath before meals, keep conversation light. When the body feels safe, appetite will follow. So if it's stress that might be causing them to shut down and not some of those other things that we mentioned, right? Like gut, food sensitivities, oral motor skills, things like that. If the body feels safe enough, it will start to eat more, right? But again, you know, we still have to look at those other areas to make sure that there isn't something underlying. Okay. Number 3, boosting calories, but without the volume. Okay. So for kids who fill up really fast because, maybe they do have some issue like this, we want to make every bite count. Okay. So adding, really healthy oils like avocado oil or coconut oil to sauces, stirring in nut butter into oatmeal or yogurt, using full fat coconut milk and soups, drizzling ghee on vegetables. So think small tweaks can add more calories and healthy fats and wins. Okay. We actually have I have a book about how to get these nutrients in, depending on what stage your child is in, called The Picky Eater's Plate. And it has all sorts of strategies for how to add these different calories in, which we do include in our program for the parents that join us in our Unlocking Mealtimes program. That book and our nutrient dense recipe guide, which you can buy they're like one and the same. There's only one payment and you get both of them, the Picky Eater's Plate and the nutrient dense recipe guide, which has basically exactly what this is, how to increase the nutrients, how to increase the calories without necessarily adding more food into their day. Okay, so those might be of help to you if this is an issue. All right, let's dive into number 4, food sensitivities, which we did talk about. So you don't necessarily have to cut out foods cold turkey. If you do our roadmap test with us and we can get you the food sensitivity test, you don't have to guess. You'll know exactly which foods we need to cut out. Okay, so that is way easier than, well, I guess I'll just eliminate this food for a few weeks and then this food for a few weeks. Like that just does not work well when you have a kid who isn't eating a big variety anyway. Like the last thing parents want to hear is, I need to cut out more foods. Let's get really specific. If there is something we need to cut out, we'll cut out that one thing, but like we don't need to just cut out things randomly for no reason, right? Um, that's my opinion on it anyway. Number 5, retraining hunger cues. Remember we said that nerve is going to send signals to the body and the brain about whether or not we're feeling hungry enough to eat. Things like that can be helped by predictable meal times, right? I can't even tell you, my dog knows exactly when it's time to eat because we've given her meal at a predictable meal time pretty much pretty much every day since she was, born, since we had her. We got her when she was a puppy of 9 weeks old, and she knows exactly what time of day it is. Okay. So, it's the same with us. We know when it's a certain time of day because we start feeling hungry. So predictable meal times is important. Model hunger language like, "Ooh, I'm feeling hungry. I'm ready for food." Or, "Oh, I just ate. That feels good. Now I feel full." Explaining that, saying it out loud will really help kids start to internalize what they might be feeling. They might not be able to put words to it, but you're giving them those words so that they can then in the future say them with confidence. Okay. Within a few weeks, hunger cues should be returning if you're consistent. Okay. A lot of times doctors that say like just add more calories can come from a good place, but if kids are not eating, or I should say when kids are eating and still not gaining, that means the body is not using what is going in, and that is a problem. It could be inflammation, sensitivities, or stress blocking absorption. And if we skip that whole piece of the puzzle, we're just pushing food onto a body that doesn't feel safe, and it could really backfire. You should not have to shove food into your child for them to grow. When the body feels comfortable and functional, it's naturally going to want to eat and grow, right? It is our biology to do so. Um, if you want to take it a little step further, something you could try is, like we said, maybe that predictability in time, but take it a step further, make it the same seat, the same rhythm, the same calm energy. It's going to tell the body, all of those signals are going to tell the body that it's safe and you can eat when you're ready. And we do really need the body to feel that sense of safety to make good progress. So I know how emotional this can get. Every bite really does feel like a test. Every time the doctor weighs your child, it feels like a judgment on you sometimes. But they definitely don't need pressure. They just need your partnership. They need a calm body. They need to feel safe, and they need to trust. And if your child is eating something, even if it's mostly pasta or carbs, but they're still not gaining, it's definitely time to dig deeper. Our roadmap is where we uncover what's happening in the body, from gut health to sensory sensitivities to oral motor skills to mindset. Every evaluation moving forward from December 1st, 2025 is going to include food sensitivity testing of over 90 different foods, which is 92% accurate, and gut microbiome testing. So we are not missing any puzzle pieces here. And we guide you on, we want you to rule out things like the iron, the thyroid, celiac issues, things that you can do with your medical team. This is something that takes some patience. It takes some detective work. But when we find those missing pieces, it changes everything. It totally turns things around 180 degrees for sure. Kids can start asking for food again. They're more comfortable. They're much more willing to explore. So if you are ready to start this journey and you haven't yet, go to the pickyeaterstest.com today to take the quiz, get your child's eating level, and get started on the path to eating healthy and happy again. Because your child's weight gain is not just about calories, it's about discovering what is blocking their body from using the food that they are eating. And when we unlock that, appetite and growth can really finally fall into place. And that's really where real transformation truly begins. I hope that was super helpful for you. And we will see you in the next episode. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.